Good afternoon. It's Friday, the 17th of July, and it is 4 o'clock, almost exactly 4 o'clock. Um, and it's now day 8 of, of my quarantine. So, more than half is finished, and um, can start to see the light. Um, I will. Well, I'll get into that in a second. So, okay, question is okay, I'm in Australia. I told you why I'm in Australia. But what's the process in Australia? So, basically, what's happening is, as opposed to Israel, where when you go to Israel, if you fly into Israel now, um, they tell you you have to go quarantine yourself, which and they give you all these instructions on how to do it, and you can if you can do it at home, you go home and you do it. Um, I'm not sure, I think in the beginning there was a bunch of hotels that people were quarantining in. I don't really know. I can't recall if that was like paid for by the country by the government. So I don't know if they're still operating that way because there's not far fewer people coming in and going out now. But basically, you had this option where, and I will have this option when I get back to Israel, to go home and quarantine myself. So either lock myself in a room and have some people, deliver me supplies to the door, but it's supposed to have a separate bathroom, or an apartment. Like for example, my father-in-law who passed away um, last year, his apartment is still free. No one's using it, so I could go and quarantine in that apartment. Um, so I mean, if you have like a place to quarantine, you just go and quarantine yourself. In Australia, it doesn't work that way at all. In Australia, by the law is that you must quarantine in a Australian um, hotel, which has been chosen out of a bunch of hotels as a quarantine hotel, and it's all run by um, the police and the army. And there was a bit of a controversy in Victoria because they didn't use the army, they didn't use the police, so they were using private security guards, and the private security guards uh, weren't doing their job. They were, I don't know, mixing with um, the people in quarantine. I heard rumors that they were having sex with some of the quarantine, and basically they were getting infected and then going and that's how Victoria now has like a huge surge in the number of people in quarantine with COVID. So in New South Wales, which is where I am in Sydney, no, you have to go to a hotel, and the hotel is run by the police, and the police and are backed up by like army grunts who are just sort of like doing the hard work, schlepping your bags up or whatever. That's the only place I saw them, and so yeah, so you have to do this mandated 14-day quarantine. Now I thought, wow, this country's really got it together. They're very organized, and you get a sense that the government is in control, and they're really. Um, but then, strangely enough, when we first got here, there was like, okay, what is 14 days? When am I going to be able to get out of here? And they told me, oh, it's 14 24-hour periods. I rang up the police, on in there. They've got somebody who you can speak to on the in the hotel, and I asked, so explain it to me. When can I get out of the hotel? Right now, I arrived here at 11:30 at night on Thursday night, last Thursday. What day can I get out of here? So basically, the person on the end of the phone, who was presumably a police officer, told me it's 14 times 24 hours, and then so if you got here at 11:30 p.m. At 12:01 a.m. on the day after the 14 24-hour periods, you can go. So what does that mean? That means that I can get out of here at 12:01 on Friday, morning, midnight, basically 1 minute past midnight on the night between Thursday and Friday. But then there's these groups on Facebook about people that are all in quarantine in Australia. There's one for all the quarantine in Australia. There's one for my actual hotel. And somebody in our hotel mentioned that been they'd managed to get hold of, and this is somebody that got here a day after I did, the pack, the information pack. It's like, what information pack? And I didn't know anything about an information pack. Apparently, there's a information pack that they're supposed to give you. I didn't know about it, and it's got all the information, presumably, on what if you have any questions. There's all the laws and whatever. And, it's all very, very laid out. And then there's this whole section here about if what date you arrived on. Here it is on July the 9th at July the 9th. Your departure date is the 23rd of July. I was like, hang on, that doesn't make any sense. They told me exactly the opposite of that. They told me, well, not the opposite, but totally different. They said you arrive at 11:30, so 14 times 24 gets you to 11:30 p.m. on the 23rd. And then they said, and then after the midnight, you're allowed to leave. After midnight, you're allowed to leave. So in other words, you do 24 periods, and then after midnight, on that day, you're allowed to leave. But here, it says that if you arrive between 1 a.m. and 11:59 a.m., you can check out between 4 a.m. and 10 a.m. And if you arrive between 12 p.m. and 11:59 p.m., you can check out between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. on your date of departure. So it's ridiculous. I mean, first of all, nobody told me that I could get an actual sheet with information. They just sort of throw you in here and you're on your own. And secondly, there's this conflicting information, and in these forums, everybody's got a different story. Oh, no, sometimes it's 13 days, sometimes 15 days. It's crazy, it's really irritating. So Australia, you're just as balaganim, you're just as bigger balaganistim, you mess up the same as Israelis do. It's quite satisfying to know that you don't just have a big mess in Israel. Okay, so I don't know if this has been of any interest to you, but that's my quarantine update for today. I'm doing fine. I'm fine. I've got plenty of music to listen to. I've been listening to lots of music. I watched football this morning between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m. English Premier League. Manchester United won again, and looks like they could make the Champions League. Fingers crossed. They have to win the next 2 games. That's it. So I'm going to try and keep this under, it's 9 minutes, so I'm going to say goodbye. That's my update for day 8. See you later.